toward the one, the perfection of love, harmony, and beauty, the only being, united with all the illuminated souls, who form the embodiment of the Master, the Spirit of guidance. Praise be to thee, most supreme God, omnipotent, omnipresent, all-pervading, the only being. Take us in thy parental arms, raise us from the denseness of the earth. Thy beauty do we worship, to thee do we give willing surrender. Most merciful and compassionate God, the idealized Lord of the whole of humanity, the only do we worship, and towards thee alone do we aspire. Open our hearts towards thy beauty, illuminate our souls with divine light. O thou, the perfection of love, harmony, and beauty, all-powerful Creator, Sustainer, Judge, and Forgiver of our shortcomings, Lord God of the East and of the West, of the worlds above and below, and of the seen and the unseen beings, pour upon us thy love and thy light. Give sustenance to our bodies, hearts, and souls. Use us for the purpose that thy wisdom chooseth, and guide us on the path of thine own goodness. Draw us closer to thee every moment of our life, until in us be reflected thy grace, thy glory, thy wisdom, thy joy, and thy peace. May the message of God reach far and wide. May the message of God reach far and wide. May the message of God reach far and wide. May the message of God reach far and wide. May the message of God reach far and wide. May the message of God reach far and wide. May the message of God reach far and wide. May the message of God reach far and wide. May the message of God reach far and wide. May the message of God reach far and wide. May the message of God reach far and wide. Inspirer of my mind, consoler of my heart, healer of my spirit. Thy presence lead me to do... Oh, I'm sorry. Start again.
You would be surprised how often that happens. You totally lose it. Completely.
No, it doesn't happen often.
It happens occasionally.
There's a sheet right in there.
Yeah. Oh, should be right,
Inspirer of
my mind,
consoler of my heart, healer of my spirit.
Thy presence lifted me from earth to heaven.
Thy words flow as the sacred river. Thy thought riseth as the divine spring. Thy tender feelings awaken sympathy in my heart. Beloved teacher, thy very being is forgiveness. The clouds of doubt and fear are scattered by thy piercing glance. All ignorance vanishes in thy illuminating presence. A new hope is born in my heart by breathing thy peaceful atmosphere. O inspiring guide through life's puzzling ways, in thee I feel abundance of blessing. O thou who art the maker, molder, and builder of the universe, build with thine own hands the universe cell, our temple for thy divine message of love, harmony, and beauty. Over 35 years of saying that prayer.
Okay, so what we're going to do this year, and possibly even next year, is go through this document, Course in Meditation. I don't know, are you familiar with this?
A little bit. Never seen it so beautifully bound.
In the early 1980s, Pierre Vilayet did Meditation of the Month thing. And it was accompanied by tapes as well, which we have somewhere. I'm not sure where.
I know where mine are. You want them?
Huh? Yeah, I can make copies. I can actually digitize them. I have a machine that will digitize. So there's like 45 lessons here, I think. Basically teaching everything that he knew, 45, about meditation, or what he was willing to divulge, I suppose. And so we're going to go through this as the year progresses. And I'm not going to give it to you now, but at the end of the day, I'll give you copies of the material that we covered. Okay, so and then you can look at it later, and we'll also make an assignment for the following month, on what to work on.
So this is not available on any online resource?
Nope. As far as I know.
Yeah, Course in Meditation. What's her name?
Aziza?
No, your former guide.
That's a different thing.
That's different?
That's completely different.
Okay.
And that's even more complicated.
Oh, that is true. Yeah.
I have that as well. I have all those notes.
Okay.
But we're not going to touch that. Maybe in a couple of years we'll get into that. But not for the time being. This is and towards the end of his life, Per Vilayat also did. He didn't call it a Course in Meditation. He called it something else. I forget what he called it. Which was very complicated. And I have all the notes for that because the person that was my guide at the time was doing all the editing. So she was feeding me the material and we were using it in our classes in Yonkers. But for now, this will do because this is going to introduce you to material that I know, with the exception of North Albia, you've never touched, frankly. Except for the first part. The first part...
Can I tell you a tiny little favorite story?
Well, sure.
Per Vilayat was talking about meditation and how it is very important to understand that our minds never stop. And so he said, we're gonna do 20 minutes of meditation, and then you're gonna write down what you thought about, and I'm gonna look at it. And then he kept talking, and then he kept talking, and then he kept talking, and in the end, and he kept talking about how we think so much. We think all the time. So
you never got to write it down.
5 minutes, and he'd already run over. And he did. When he came back, he had that magic where I know everybody in the room thought he was talking personally to them. I know I did.
Sure.
And he said we almost completely thought about whatever is important to us. But we did all think a lot, and very few of us thought of different things. We all,
Similarities in all
yeah,
what we think about.
I loved that moment.
Okay. I'm going to just read through this first lesson, which was basically an outline of what he intended, and you'll have it later. And I don't know if I'll stop in the middle. We'll see. The present course is programmed as a set of instructions intended to be carried out by the pupil daily. The lessons are meted out progressively and cover a vast range of practices based on the traditional teachings of the esoteric schools that developed through the ages against the religious background of the great civilizations. The lessons will be dispatched at a regular monthly pace, so it is left to the discretion of the pupil whether to continue practicing the previous lesson in addition to the new one, or simply to concentrate on the new one, or to consistently refer back to the earlier practices. So as you can imagine, by the end of the 3 years, it took 3 years, you had 45 lessons to remember, so most people didn't do that. Some people did, some, like masochists, I guess. Pupils are advised to preserve the lessons by collating them, all right, just make a notebook, which is what we have. May we be reminded here that while the present trend is toward dealing with real-life situations and confronting personal problems, it becomes obvious to the more enlightened that one cannot assess situations reliably while one is too engrossed in them. One cannot see the forest for the trees. Moreover, one's personal vantage point in a situation cannot but prove relative. Just like the landscape gets distorted through a lens, the map is not the territory. A more holistic view of our problems would ensue from alternating the focus of our consciousness, viewing ourselves and the situation from this perspective. Most of the time we are grappling with our concepts of our problems instead of grasping where the real issues lie. This is all stuff that we've talked about in the past, I think, in various ways, right? Okay, this is where meditation proves to be invaluable. Not just as a stress alleviating technique, but as a training in a more apt use of consciousness. Furthermore, meditation could be applied to fostering the creativity that our personality, an objective which we shall continually keep in mind throughout this course. Fostering the creativity of our personality, okay? Which should tell you that you're a work in progress. You're not a finished product, okay? Keep that in mind. Meditation is the art of modulating consciousness beyond the middle range, in which most people most of the time are entrapped, and therefore marks a step forward in the evolution of the human species. It is as skillful and elaborate an art as learning to play a musical instrument, compose, paint, dance, or act in the performing arts, or train in the skill of the artisan, or scientist, or technologist, perhaps even more. There are certain preliminaries that must be taken into consideration before we start our course. First of all, as soon as one reaches beyond the middle range of thinking, just as in non-Euclidean geometry or relativity, the commonplace logic breaks down and proves itself inadequate. So make that okay, all right? That it's okay to understand that you don't understand. We are dealing with complementarity instead of thinking in terms of categories. For example, there is no boundary to our being. Rather than being like the section of an orange, we are like a whirlpool, inextricably enmeshed in a wave interference pattern. Such a realization shakes our self-image drastically, or again we are continuity and change, which does not mean that a part of us, the spirit, is internal, while another part, the body, is transient, but that our being, considered as a whole, that is holistically, is without boundary and in a state of ongoing transition. Okay? This is exactly the same as the Ibn Arabi's talking about the constant state of unlimited creation, in which every moment that exists is a totally new creation in the terms of the universe. And when you look at it that way, you can see that there's a continual vibratory evolution taking place all the time. And that's you too. And so what we do is we desperately want to maintain some kind of anchor, and we create all kinds of security blankets to maintain that anchor, while at the same time the universe is saying, oh no, you don't get to anchor. You got to continually evolve. It's a fundamental paradox that we're always faced with.
Well, it is a paradox, but sometimes you need that anchor in order to evolve. It's like you need a base in order to, expand. Or,
Yeah.
So you actually need both.
That's true. I'm happy with that.
Okay.
Okay.
And is the base, that anchor's sort of a story that we tell ourselves, right?
Yes, exactly. That's precisely it. He talks about that actually later in here. It is the story that we continually reiterate and modify, as events take place. Although what a lot of people do is they insist that the universe match their story.
Yeah. But within that, of saying that the creation is always taking place, it makes me realize that the power is in the moment, in the now.
Yeah. That's what we're continually iterating, and it's probably the hardest single thing to maintain, to be in the moment all the time. Because you're planning, right? I got to go to the bank, and then you plan the route that you're going to take to get to the bank, and so on. Right? Those things we're doing all the time, constantly. You got your schedule, whatever your schedule is, and you go in the morning, like you go in the morning and you see your schedule, and you're thinking, how am I going to do each one of these things is in the most efficient manner possible, and you go off to, with your whatever schedule you have now. I don't think you have one anymore.
I don't know what's happening.
Okay, well, you did have a schedule, more or less, kind of, that you created yourself, and so on. That's what we do. We plan. And the other part of the story that we tell ourselves is the resentments that we have accumulated over the years.
It feels like there's power in those, like always referring back to saying, it's like anti-planning. Like this today isn't acting like yesterday, or today is acting like yesterday, and we give that power, but it's not really power, is it? It's like it's like a dissonance, maybe.
No, it's power if you give it power.
But it's taking the power from today.
Yeah. And making assumptions about the day that are simply not true.
Yeah.
That's like one of the things that we deal with in our normal everyday practice is the stories that people have told themselves that are, patently false. Somebody comes in here and says, I'm a smoker and I need to quit. Why are you a smoker? You don't have to smoke. It's not a requirement. There's nothing in the world that says you have to do that. But the story that you tell yourself over and over and over is that I'm a smoker. Right? Or I'm overweight, or I'm anxious, or I'm, the one I love is when they come in here and tell me they're bipolar, and I'm beginning to wonder about that whole analysis. What does that mean,
Better go back to the text.
Okay, so the very first practice in lesson 2, that was lesson 1, is the explanation.
Wait a minute. You didn't do the whole thing.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
I read the whole paper. Yeah.
All right.
You're looking. I know what you're looking for. It's not in that paper.
Okay. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Okay. So this is the very next is purification breaths, which we have gone through numerous times, but I think you'll find some new material in Pure of Light direct teaching. Okay. Here we go. It is advised to commence all meditation sessions with a breathing practice. Adopting a holistic view, the action of absorbing oxygen from the environment and expelling polluted gases from the lungs is only one factor in an overall ebb and flow of exchange of energy between the organism and the universe. The human being may be looked upon as a vortex or whirlpool, that is, without boundary, which is only able to maintain itself by continually dispersing and conversely processing the environment. Okay? So far?
Okay.
Follow all that? Amongst the unteamed ingredients of the universe so converged, I love this sentence, just catch on to the sentence. Amongst the unteamed ingredients of the universe so converged, processed, radiated, and spoliated, the magnetic field, more specifically the geomagnetic field, assumes in the human being the form of personal magnetism and is greatly enhanced whenever one reaches out with one's consciousness into the vastness of the universe. Like me to read that again?
Put that in your whirlpool.
Yeah, again, just so you can get the full impact. Amongst the unteamed ingredients of the universe so converged, processed, radiated, and spoliated, the magnetic field, more specifically the geomagnetic field, assumes in the human being the form of personal magnetism and is greatly enhanced wherever one reaches out with one's consciousness into the vastness of the universe. Hi, Elisa.
Hi.
Come on in and sit down.
I apologize for
That's-
being a bit sad.
That's okay.
I have a friend I brought with me, Sarah.
Okay. Hi, Sarah.
I'm going to use the bathroom real quick.
Okay, I'll tell you what, we're just going to
We're just full of life.
read the sentence again. Amongst the unteamed ingredients of the universe so converged, processed, radiated, and spoliated, the magnetic field, more specifically the geomagnetic field, assumes in the human being the form of personal magnetism and is greatly enhanced whenever one reaches out with one's consciousness into the vastness of the universe.
It's so Pure Goliath.
Isn't it?
Here's how I think. I think I might have the right word, but in Pure Vilayat way, he's made it into his own word.
Oh.
Because it is the material alteration of a bill of exchange will or the like. I'm imagining that it's an intentional change.
Ah, okay.
Well, it's also he talked about the
Spoliation with
unteamed.
the S?
Foliation.
So the unteamed thing would include everything, even that which had spoiled.
Oh,
It's like all the entire caboose, you know.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know, and I'm
Well,
just
that's
going to
my
move
impression.
on.
Okay.
Okay.
The recycling of everything.
Okay.
Yes.
I
Yes.
sounds like
Yes.
that.
Yes.
Okay, is everybody happy with that
Sure.
explanation? Okay, another factor is the light of the universe converged in the form of one's aura, then radiated. I mean, that's one of the basic practices that we do, right? Light in, light out. For these practices, references will be made in the lessons in preparation. Of course, there are many more factors related to the ebb and flow of breath. So we're beginning with purification breaths, actually, and Pure Vilayat's method of teaching the purification breaths, which everyone, what happens is as you teach these things, over the years, you develop your own method in your own way, because you're teaching from your own personal experience, generally. This is his.
And your own way, it can become sclerosed.
Certainly can.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. That's certainly true. Okay. One of the reasons for the importance of controlling breath in spiritual practices is that by the sheer fact of becoming aware of one's breath, one unwittingly slows it down. Okay? Everybody's experienced that, right? If you focus on your breathing, it automatically slows down. In the normal diurnal rhythm of breath, the organism is in a state of readiness to spring to action. Animals are alert to catch their prey or to defend themselves. This is called the catabolic state, whereas in the state of rest, called the anabolic state, the organism can rebuild energy, digest food in protected conditions. The human mind can indulge in an overview, taking stock of situations rather than having to keep in a state of readiness to spring into action. Thus, the slowing down of the breath favors the state of meditation. Okay. I'll just read this. Several breathing practices will be described and prescribed in the present course. We'll start with the one that is called in the Sufi order purification breaths. It is advised to practice these every day, first thing in the morning. This practice has two objectives. cleansing the energy field from pollution picked up from the physiological and psychological environment, and recharging the energy from the environment with special reference to the elements earth, water, fire, and air. They are based on a hermetic knowledge embodied in alchemy. I like to consider these as both purifications and baptisms with the elements by reestablishing our covenant with nature, the ground of our body. Is that clear to everybody? Any questions? No? Okay. Baptism with the earth. How do you want to do this? Do you want me to just go ahead and read through this, or would you like to do the practice as I'm reading? And that's what I recommend. Generally, you only do any given breath 5 times, right? But in this case, just work with it as I go through the material, all right? Does that seem okay with everybody? So, purification with earth, or he calls it baptism with earth. Inhale and exhale through the nose 3 to 5 times, generally 5 times, slowly without retention. The breath should not be overly slowed down. If indoors, it is advised to do this before an open window, if your health allows it. Accentuate the exhaling, extending it while ejecting all impurities in the mind and emotions that might tarnish your magnetic emanation. Okay? So ordinarily we teach this to balance the breath so the inhalation and exhalation are the same, but he's saying to extend the exhalation somewhat. Identify yourself with your magnetic field rather than your body. And we'll talk more about that later. Envision the magnetic field of the planet Earth as resorbing any pollution in your magnetic field. I believe that one might say, in terms of physics, any irregularities in an open system get balanced out in the larger system in which it is immersed. Okay? Any irregularities in an open system get balanced out in the larger system in which it is immersed. Toward the end of the out-breath, extend your consciousness into the vastness of outer space and think of the whole universe as an enormous force field partly crystallized in the fabric of the galaxies. Now, if you can envision yourself as a vortex that is without boundary, you will see yourself inextricably intermeshed in the cosmic immensity. When consciousness becomes thus all-encompassing, the amount of energy converged into the vortex of the magnetic field becomes incomparably greater and energy builds up. The clue is freeing oneself from one's limited self-image. Here one discovers the relationship between consciousness and energy. Now, you may notice that of all parts of the body, the bottom of the spine, if you are sitting cross-legged, or the soles of the feet if you are standing, or both if you're sitting in a chair, are the areas in which the updraft of earth energy is most felt. This energy is felt as triggering off Kundalini unless balanced by a descending current, which we will call celestial or poor spirit. If rather than concentrating on the geomagnetic field, you concentrate on the magnetic field of the entire universe in all its vastness, you will feel as though energy were impinging upon the body from all directions simultaneously. As you exhale now, not only does your notion of yourself disperse into outer space, but simultaneously you are aware of radiating energy into the environment. further and further. But at the same time, any pollution, irregularities in your life field are earthed and drained away. Okay, that's the end of that. How you doing? That's a lot. How'd that feel?
For me, it's feeling very expansive, but also I feel more connected to everybody in the room here.
That's your experience too? Huh, okay.
In that last part, is he saying that, I've always wondered this, is he saying that we're like lightning rods? But no, because it's so equal.
Not lightning rods. What I think you're doing is you are establishing a relationship with the reality of your being. Okay?
And it's it's an equal, like it's not lightning because there's not some huge burst. It's the power that is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's already there. You're discovering it, accentuating it, but it never was not there.
Right.
Yeah. So you're just becoming more and more aware. If you can think of this vortex, it's like this whirlpool. It's not just that little part that goes round and round. It's the whole ocean, the whole universe. So it's like you are not separate from from the universe. It's like from everything. So it's like you're totally connected, which breaks down your limited view of yourself. Correct?
Yeah. We're always faced with this, with the paradox of our being as an aspect of unity, while at the same time having an individual reality. So we want to find that interface between the two of them and flip back and forth. And then these practices help you with that.
And I thought it was interesting, the one reference to the celestial energy. So it's like, to me, that's the heavenly energy coming in,
Mm-hmm.
to balance the magnetism that's coming out.
Okay.
Okay.
Fine with me. Okay, we're moving on to water. The element of water. Where you inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth. Now, instead of simply identifying with a pulsing field, become sensitive to the variety of frequencies or wavelengths of energy composing the field, particularly a very fine form of energy traditionally called pure spirit. From the moment you experience yourself as an open system, merging with the universe, you realize that spirit is both a component of your field and interspersed into the entire universe. Rather than being quickened by it, you try to earmark it in yourself, or rather as a component of yourself. Experience it when you consider matter as something that accrued to you in the course of your biographical becoming. You need to draw your memory, remember, in the nose and out the mouth, so that there's a flow of energy kind of downward, dispersing and purifying, detoxifying as it flows through you. That's me, not Pure Blind. You will need to draw your memory back to your pristine condition when you were like a mirror, devoid of impressions. This would be pre-birth. This will require you to systematically clear away all impressions whatsoever, good or bad, and transfigure joy into peace. You will first feel yourself to be like gossamer, then diaphanous, then as a highly refined energy that acts like a catalyst, triggering the latent cosmic life into motion. This high-powered brand of energy seems to break through as an outburst, rather like lightning. Consequently, one has the impression that it descends upon one, shattering one and regenerating. yet it is already part of one, or at least virtually, not unlike lightning, which is the release of the tension built up between two poles. One also has the impression of water traversing one's magnetic field like the river Rhone filters through the Lake of Geneva. It is good to link this practice with the previous one. Draw cosmic magnetic energy in as one inhales through the nose and experience the outburst of pure spirit as one exhales through the mouth. Practice thus, Kundalini is inured of any danger. Okay? So how does that feel? Is that different from the earth one?
Yeah. I thought it interesting that you brought up lightning
And
before.
then it was
Yeah.
explained.
So a jump ahead there.
Oh, for me it was the earth breath was a communal pulse with everything, and the water breath was more active. The pulse became active.
Okay. You mean it was more individual?
No, not
Still felt
so
cosmic?
much. It was busier.
Oh, that's
It was more
interesting.
energetic.
Okay.
But it was still a massness.
Okay. Those of you that have been doing these practices, are you finding differences in listening to these explanations? Yeah?
Yeah, when I do them individually, I'm much more self-focused.
Yeah. Right. You just kind of, okay, here we go. Okay, pressing it.
And I do it, it's like I tune into myself and my needs and my, all my stuff.
Yeah. Right.
I liked how he tied the two together at the end. Sometimes I find that I find one breath easier to do than another. And I'm wondering if when that happens, it's because I'm not making it sequential.
You mean, well, you are, because you just follow the routine, right?
Right.
Nevertheless.
But there's some way in which I'm like
disconnecting?
sorting them out.
Ah, okay.
Instead of flowing.
Okay. Okay, next is fire. Now, fire is the one that I always seem to have difficulty with. Always have.
Oh, you forget fire. It's like sometimes
I don't forget it, but it's always like, okay, what do I do with this?
Or you're sleepy in the morning and you're doing the practices and you think, I think I've forgotten one.
Yep, that happens too.
So with this, it gives you such a much broader, vaster consciousness, than just simply bringing up earth energy or concentrating on the flow of water, etc. It's much bigger, right?
Okay.
For me, it's like, so it's a shift.
You mean the way we're doing it now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Baptism with fire. Inhale through the mouth, exhale through the nose. Fire is a very drastic form of purification. Think of your most detested and maybe resilient defects: guile, deviousness, manipulation, cheating, deceiving others. Any of you do any of that? Any form of accommodating or compromising that humiliates your spirit because it is below your ideal. One's own imperious urge for truthfulness calls one's innate fiery nature to the fore. It may manifest itself as hot flushes or bouts of heroic resolve, like when you decide to quit smoking cigarettes or whatever it is that is plaguing you, and then do it for a day or two. Knowing that the temperature of the body is evidence of the fact that organic matter is in an ongoing state of combustion. One may imagine a bioplasmic effusion emanating from one's body while permeating it. One may even identify with this
Would you say that again?
Yeah, right. Knowing that the temperature of the body is evidence of the fact that organic matter is in an ongoing state of combustion. Okay? Every cell in your body is continually mixing oxygen and the nutrients that you intake, and they combust in the cell, and then you exhale the waste gases. One may imagine a bioplasmic effusion emanating from one's body while permeating it. In other words, you radiate heat, right? One may even identify with this igneous body, which pulses as one inhales and exhales. One might experience what it would be like to be a braze, sucking air from the environment. This is what one does as one inhales through the mouth. Actually, one does not only resorb oxygen from the environment, but radiance. For this practice, it is advised to visualize as one inhales the lower frequencies, infrared or red, concentrating in the lower chakras, then visualizing yellow or a golden color in the heart chakra, green in the throat chakra, blue in the eyes, violet in the third eye, and glistening white or colorless light from the diamond-like hues in the crown center. The Hermetic principle upon which this practice is based is called transmuting fire into light. Such can only result from a very severe or consistent catharsis. Okay, so as you inhale, you concentrate on your lower three chakras, right? And then as you exhale, the heart, throat, third eye, and crown. So you're drawing radiance from the environment into your body when you inhale, and you're exhaling your own radiance back into the environment as you exhale. Okay? Now, how's that feel?
When you talk about the specific things, we don't focus on it during this. The specific things about ourselves that we would like to burn up or burn away with the fire and then
Yeah.
go out.
No, I don't either.
No, just
I just do it.
Just do it.
Right.
But you can think about something.
You can.
If something is on your mind, you can,
A
definitely.
specific thing.
Some flaw that you'd like to dispense with, or at least
A mistake.
Guilt.
That's the word. Not
or an
mistake.
assumption that you have suddenly realized might not be quite correct. You know, we all have those. Anything else? Any other commentary on this one?
Sounds wonderful.
Okay.
Radiant.
Radiant. Okay. Baptism with air. Inhale through the mouth, exhale through the mouth. In alchemy, air stands for the volatile state. Not unlike the second baptism, one frees oneself from one's notion of substance. One experiences oneself as dematerializing as one exhales, then rematerializing as one inhales. Not unlike the first baptism, there is an experience of merging with the universe as one exhales, then building up the vortex we call the self as one inhales. But whereas in the first baptism one thinks in terms of energy or magnetism, in this, the fourth baptism, one envisions the universe as a program, as software, as pure meaningfulness, as a symphony. Not sound, because sound is the pulsing of matter, but vibration, because vibration is an oscillation of energy, or rather the condition in which energy is modulated, that is imprinted with meaning or simply carries meaning, like radio signals. Such is the significance of the Akashic body. Did everyone understand the difference between matter, what he's talking about, not sound, but vibration as an oscillation of energy? Okay? That's it. An advanced concept, but we'll go through it. Rather than being the convergence of the matter of the universe, envision yourself as the congruence of the meaningfulness of the universe. And what is more, you are contributing by the fact that the universal programming is thus conjugated in each of its relays towards the meaningfulness of the whole. In other words, what you do by doing this practice adds to the activity and the understanding of the universe. This requires as of one to lose altogether the notion of oneself as an entity as one exhales, merging totally in the mind of God. As one inhales, one experiences oneself not as re-emerging or being reborn, but rather as the apex of the thrust of the whole universe. That's kind of magnificent, isn't it? Likewise, it might become clear to one that it is not true that a wave emerges from the ocean, since a wave does not have a boundary. Its underpinnings include the whole ocean. Rather, one might say that it is the whole ocean that emerges as what appears to be each wave. One's understandable aversion to losing oneself is due to the very compulsiveness of the most basic of all instincts, self-preservation. It requires courage. When this fear is overcome, one becomes an adept on the spiritual path. But this must not be confused with blanking out. As the Buddha says, the personal notion of consciousness is carried over into cosmic consciousness without a break in the continuity in the act of consciousness and consequently of memory. Then, as one inhales, one here we go, now this is a pure light word, one adumbrates one's personal vantage point and personal self-image with the immensity of divine consciousness and the splendor of divine identity. In this baptism, not only undesirable thoughts and emotions are eradicated, but all conceptual thinking is dispersed, and all emotions, even the satisfaction of enjoying peace, are evaporated. Okay, that's it. Adumbrates.
It
Wow.
means shadowing, foreshadowing.
Is that what it means?
Yeah.
How do you know that?
I looked it up because I registered. I got the big dictionary out.
Okay. Okay, so how are we ever doing? Did you adumbrate your energy?
That was exciting.
It was exciting?
Yeah.
Yeah?
It felt like love.
Yeah.
Love is the continuity of cosmic energy, that kind of thing? Okay.
Like love as the, I can't think of the right word, of course. Like when Ibn Arabi talks about sort of the obligation of love, like loving everyone, like loving each as part of God.
Mm-hmm. Ah, okay. So you're loving yourself as part of God, actually. That actually might be the hardest part, hardest thing to do. Yeah. It's easy to love someone else and say, oh yeah, I love him even though he's a jerk. That's actually relatively easy to say, but to say I love myself. despite all of my,
Loving as a
Wonderful.
quality of God.
Yeah.
That's an interesting thing where I like sort of like I'll work hard to love you as qualities of God, but I'm not like I accept myself too easily.
hmm
Ah.
yeah. So that's the primary objective, actually, of Sufism. One of the primary objectives. And in that way, how it is that you see the universe radically changes.
Yeah, I'm looking at this in slightly different light about the love element. That's wonderfully put, beautifully put. But since that we are connected, or with this totality, we are a part of it. Doesn't make sense, but the whole. That means that every emotion we have and every thought that we have affects everything, affects our surroundings, even so much as the weather, so it's like we are connected in that tremendous way,
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think we tend to, as a group, I think we also affect.
Do you suppose that the energy that we generate just sitting in this room today has an effect on
I
the
certainly
universe?
hope so. Yeah.
I do believe. I think that what you said and what I said was exactly the same thing in different translations. That's how I felt about it.
Okay. So any questions so far? Everyone is completely understanding everything that's been...
The words and the thoughts are so complex, and even when I'm reading, and now when you're reading, I feel like I just get the gist of it, and I keep going. Sometimes I get the gist of it.
Mm-hmm.
To really understand everything, I have to go really slow, like read one sentence 50 times.
Uh-huh. Yeah. That's the way this material is. On the other hand, what Pure Light, or for that matter, any esoteric teacher is doing is they are describing their personal experience in a language that is appropriate to them, whatever it may be. And the problem always is that in the description of the personal experience, all you're doing is getting a kind of a veneer of the experience itself. Okay? So the important thing to remember is your experience is just as valid. It's not, because Pure Vilayat's experience might be deeper or vaster or maybe more complex, just because he's got this massive vocabulary doesn't mean that your experience is somehow less. It's not. It's completely valid. Okay?
So, a lot of you have been doing these purification breaths every day for quite a while. So, will this change the concentration with which you do the breaths?
Certainly refresh it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sometimes it's hard when you just get into a routine and, right, doing the breaths, and then you becomes kind of mundane and useless. But this gives it a kind of magnificence, don't you think? Okay. Lesson 3. Okay. You may have noticed how the Native Americans cleanse their auras with eagle feathers. They hold their hands out like antennae, drawing energy from the 4 cardinal corners of the earth. They are plugging into the magnetic field of the earth and drawing energy into their magnetic field. This, of course, gives great healing power. We're going to work with purifying our auras. By the aura, one means the life field. which includes the magnetic field, the aura of light. We're going to give you this material at the end of the class, so you don't need to take notes in case you can take notes if you want, but you don't really need to. Okay. By the aura, one means the life field, which includes the magnetic field, the aura of light, the Akashic body, and many other bodies extending far into space. The first thing that one wants to do is to be aware of the magnetic field and identify with it instead of the body. Perhaps you've seen drawings of the field around a magnet. That phenomenon is to be found around the physical body, and possibly is the mold in which the body is built. See if you can feel your aura around your shoulders and shoulder blades extending forward from your heart. So just try to do that. Put your hands around your shoulders and close your eyes. Try to feel it, and try to feel it in front of your heart as I talk. Move your hands outward a bit. Okay. Extending your hands forward from your heart. Okay. It's not an. I'll keep reading as I talk. It's not an equal field. There are areas that are more intense than others. There are plumes, and you can go all around your head and your shoulders, etc. There are plumes of magnetic force. You can use your hands to become aware of different thresholds, quantum leaps, in your magnetic field. By placing them in front of the areas mentioned and gradually moving them away, you will notice how the field tends to weaken as it gets farther away from the body. You may recognize several plumes where one has to concentrate on drainage. Those points correspond to the wings of the seraphim archangels. Now, the first pair of wings proceed from the temples, as in the Greek statues representing the winged thought. When one does the Shema Yisrael or the Bismillah prayers, one places the hands on the temples. This is also to be found in the movements of the prayer Som from Hazrat Inayat Khan when we say, "Praise be to thee." While doing this, you can free any tension in your head. Okay, I'll just describe it and tell you what to do. By placing your fingers at your temples, you will be releasing the tension which is due to magnetism that has become polluted or stagnant and has not drained. Here's an effective way to drain this polluted energy. Okay, place your hands next to your temples. Your temples are over here, next to your, over here, this part of your head. Okay? Holding them as if you were going to unscrew a jar. Turn each hand in a counterclockwise position, which means they will be going in opposite directions, with the right hand turning backwards and the left hand turning forwards. So it may be a little confusing, but it's from the point of view of the temple rather than the hand. Okay? Okay, then gradually move hands outward away from the temples while continuing the turning movement. You will find a point at some distance from the temples, different for each person, where there is a threshold between one level of energy and another. At this critical point, any fluctuating motion of your fingertips is felt immediately in your temples. Okay, now you put your hands down. The second pair of wings is in your shoulder blades, and the arms are the physical expression of the plumes of energy. The point of junction between the origin of those two wings is the place where the king in the Grail legend was struck by the lance when he turned his back and was not facing the truth. It's a very sensitive area, and when we are tired or nervous, tension is felt there. So right in the center back between the shoulder blades. Now the wings can be folded almost forward to form what the Sufis call the mantle of light, which is a protection against evil and magic. As a practice, you can represent those wings, originating in the shoulder blades, being wrapped around you as a protection. So you can even use, I love doing this, because you can imagine even using your arms just like wings, like a dancer, and then folding your, you could just do it mentally if you want, but it's kind of a wonderful thing to just imagine that your arms are wings, and that you can take those enormous wings and protect yourself, give yourself protection, just like the bird sleeps with its head tucked into its wings. And you can imagine even protecting those that you love in this same way, just encompassing them, and then just do it with your mind and your emotion. See what happens. Okay. We have been speaking about the wings, and there are other related centers in the life field. They constitute the access of the vortex like a constellation of centers. We will focus upon the most obvious one, the heart center, through which tremendous energy flows in a forward direction. It actually spreads, fans out, but the main thrust is forward. This is what one feels when you say the wazifa, Ya Fatah, especially if you also use arm and hand movements that accent the radiation. While the seraphim are using their wings, they are also radiating energy through the heart. Here you may repeat the movement suggested before, that of making a counterclockwise turn with your hand. Okay, this time from the heart center, and gradually moving away from the body, and it will release any inverted energy. Just keep feeling that. And once if you lose it, just go back and see if you can sense it. Okay. The third pair of wings is represented symbolically by the wings on the ankles of Hermes, or Mercury the messenger. The messenger is the one who uses his winged feet, which means to displace oneself, in order to communicate the order of the events on Earth and establish lines of communication between these two spheres. The plumes of energy that finally blossom forth as the wings in the ankles start much higher up in the solar plexus, which is the point of junction, and then divide up in the adrenal glands. Then you will find that those plumes of energy descend down through the limbs to the sciatic nerves and to the feet. So let's just stand and try to sense that. So you put your hands over your solar plexus and just imagine, just sense, you can unscrew it there, the same thing, and allow that energy to go down the sciatic nerve, which is right down the side of the legs, right down into your feet, so that your feet have wings. It's a miraculous kind of thing to imagine your feet having wings. So the feet implying action, take you to wherever you have to go, and it's a marvelous thing. So just imagine now, standing here, the wings coming out from your temples, say from your mind, and from your shoulder blades, just expanding them, or having them down, in whatever position you would like, and feeling the wings on the feet. Kind of gives you a remembrance of your angelic heritage. the feet. Okay. By turning your hand counterclockwise as it is moved out from the center, this is talking about the solar plexus now, this may lead to creating a circle of light around the solar plexus, which I always recommend to people who come to me and say they are being attacked by bad forces. So it's a protection as well. For those of you who are aware of massage, the way of cleansing the magnetism in this area is to move downwards with the fingers along the legs. Finally, you find that the energy gets blocked in the soles of the feet, and that is where foot massage is often the way of releasing a tremendous amount of tension in the magnetic field of the body that got blocked in the feet. Walking barefooted will prove to be very helpful in deblocking the bottleneck. The other thing is dancing. The dervish dance. Then one is picking up the right foot and one is creating a current, a gap in the energy between the right foot and the left foot. The Russians do that in their very energetic leg dances and the flamenco, of course. You can simply concentrate, if I can use a metaphor, flying without feet. So, do you want to demonstrate the dervish step?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
So,
So you pick up that foot and it comes around, right?
like that.
Yeah. You could even pick it up higher.
Yeah, Pirula would go like this.
Yeah. So it actually creates a current, and that's what the Mevlevi dervishes in their turn. They're creating this current. Okay. Now, one of the modern ways of working with the bottom range of wings is jogging. There was a rishi in India who was 108 years old, and he used to jog every morning. He could hardly walk, but he could run. If you can, go jogging barefooted. It's much better. Mm-hmm. It's good to be conscious of the energy flow between the soles of the feet and the earth when you're running. Jogging can be real yoga practice. I dare say that while you are jogging, if you would just visualize that you had wings on your feet, you would jog better instead of stumping around as many of us do. Who is the Hindu guru that jogs here in the States? Friend of Pirulaya.
Oh, Sri Chinmoy.
Sri Chinmoy. Yeah. He had all his disciples jogging.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, they were major joggers and jugglers as well, which gave balance, you know, in a wonderful way.
Very into doing physical things. That's right.
Yeah. Okay, so after having cleansed the plumes of energy in one's aura, the next thing to do is to receive a blessing or energy from the celestial beings. And that means attuning oneself to their attunement. Okay, well, so just sit with the back, your spine straight. Okay. You've cleansed your aura as best you can, and even, in a sense, charged it fully. Just choose a master saint or prophet or angel and receive their blessing. Receive the blessing in every area of your being, physically, in every cell of your body, emotionally, in the love that you feel, in the power that you feel, mentally, receive that blessing mentally, and receive it spiritually. This is all part of that vast cosmic outreach and connection. Being blessed by a saint, prophet, angel, avatar. Also gives meaning to your life, your purpose, your existence. All right, amen. All right. How do you feel about that, what we just did?
I have a tear.
She's got a tear.
Sweet as can be.
Okay. And does that change the whole process of cleansing the auric field? Do you feel a change or not? It's okay to say you didn't. Too. I accept that.
Yes.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, you did?
She
Yeah.
already
That's it?
spoke.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh. I missed it.
you missed it. It was 2 words. No. 4 words.
I feel pretty.
I have a tear. Close enough. Okay.
So,
I feel unguarded.
oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Vulnerable?
No.
No, not vulnerable.
Well,
Vulnerable's
Without
okay.
without a need for
without,
guard,
yeah, I
Without
don't
a
feel
need.
a need to that, to unguarded, like,
Yeah. Yeah, because most of the
Trusting.
time we are guarded.
yes, that's what that's, like, I never thought of the aura as a protection, but it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure it's still there, but it is not, like the shades are open.
Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, learning to protect yourself is kind of essential when you start to go really deep into this work. Because you do become unguarded, you do become open and vulnerable and love everybody, and that's not necessarily going to be reciprocated, is it? No. Yeah, so being aware of how to protect yourself is important.
Yeah.
And be, in that story, in Memories of Murshid, where Murshid was giving a talk before a big crowd, and after he started talking, some guy walked in, and Murshid gave, like, the person telling the story says it was a very disjointed, or I can't remember the word he gave, but like it was a really big talk, and he knew what the subject matter was. This person who was telling the story, and that's not what Murshid talked about, and it was a hard to understand talk. I guess I could say it wasn't a very good talk. And he said that it was because that person who walked in after he started was practicing dark magic, and he hadn't, because he came in late, he didn't have time to protect himself.
Oh. I never heard that story. Yeah.
Oh.
Wow. Wow.
Hmm.
And the person telling the story says that this guy that came in, like, brought darkness with him.
Sure, it happens.
So, Mershid had already started, but if he had not started and had protected himself from that guy, it wouldn't have been less spiritual, the talk. I wonder what it had to do with his aura.
Well, the first thing I would ask is, well, where's the transcript of the talk? You know, I'd like to hear, see it and see what exactly you said. Because it could have been something that was over the head of the guy that's relating the story.
Right.
Right?
He seemed to. I could make a copy of it and send it to you.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind. Yeah. Don't we have that book, Memories of Mershid? I think
Well,
somewhere.
I think there's sort of two of those. The
No,
one
I
that
don't
I
have
have is like that. It's bound like that.
Oh, okay. Oh.
Oh.
All right.
And it's
So yeah, that can happen, and you can be. Pirbalai once told me that he used to. I think I've told some of you this. He used to when he was giving a public talk, not to myriads, but to a public talk, he would pick out the person in the room who was the most skeptical, and talk directly to them, trying to convince them, right,
really?
of his veracity. Yeah, and then he finally got over that. Said there was come a point where he just stopped doing that.
I've done that before. It feels awful.
Yeah, it's kind of creepy. Yeah, exactly. But that's so in a way that's kind of the same thing, because you're speaking to this this individual who's not going to listen to you. It doesn't matter. They're probably there because their girlfriend made them come, or their boyfriend said, you have to see this or whatever, right? And they don't want to be there. And you're trying to convince them. That's happened to us. There was when we used to go to I think I've told some of you this, we used to go to do universal worship at the Abode.
Yeah.
There was one we went every month and a half or so, I guess, every 2 months, something like that.
2 months.
And there was one Sunday that I'll never forget. We were doing the service, and it was a good service. We're pretty good at it. And there was one guy sitting right in the middle, on the front row, just like that. He had his arms were crossed, protecting his solar plexus, right? And the frown was permanent. It wasn't going to ever turn into a smile. And through the whole service, he was just sitting there. And at first, I thought, I got to convince this guy. But then I thought, no. So I just kind of ignored him. And I don't know, did you have the same experiences? You remember that guy?
Yeah.
And we were just ignoring him and speaking to the rest of the people that were there. Because he didn't want to be there. He definitely was. But then his wife was there, and she was happy that he was there. I could just see her. She was beaming that he had actually come to this service that he hated. So, so that happens. And you just have to and you're going to be confronted. Have you ever had the experience of being with someone that should be paying attention, but they're not?
You mean they need the lesson that's being taught as far as you're concerned?
They should understand it. There's something about them that that intrinsically this person, this being, has the juice, but man, they have blocked it. Mm-hmm. And there is just no getting through whatever it is that they have, whatever barriers they've. You ever had that experience? Mm-hmm. So, do you need to be protected from them?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
From your own efforts. I need to protect myself from myself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Why? I love having Candace here because she knows all the answers.
I'm thinking of this woman that just the other day I watched her get kicked out again. And I feel as though over the years, in my different capacities that I've worked with her, over and over again, I see her potential, and there's something about seeing it that I almost feel as though causes her to relapse again. And
Because
and
you're
it's
seeing it.
painful to me to
Mhm.
watch her do this.
Yeah.
So that's why I say protect myself from myself.
Yeah.
There's no protecting her.
No, she's exactly. Yeah.
And
you
there's
protect-
no reaching her either. I can't even tell
Well,
you
she
how many
seems to keep
different
coming
angles
back.
I've come at. Yeah, I don't know how much longer she can live though.
What do you mean she gets kicked out?
Well, she's an addict,
Oh.
so she can only keep using in an agency for so long before she has to be discharged, or else it's a
Okay.
state of irresponsibility.
Yeah.
But that aside, the point is that my continual attempts or my continual witnessing, that's really what I've realized it's become.
Witnessing her experience or witnessing your own efforts, or
Her-
both.
Her
Both, I
potential.
guess.
Yeah.
I call it witnessing her experience, but actually it's me who's left with my own experience. Huh?
Right. And that's going to happen to everybody here more and more frequently the deeper you go. It's just part of the deal. You know, it's like one of the things that we continually have to explain to people is that as you go deep into this material and become even more conversant with your own true being, the range of people that you can actually discuss this with gets narrower and narrower. It just gets smaller and smaller. And so you have to be very careful. Which doesn't mean to say that you can't, answer someone's questions, but to expect them to grasp the depth of your understanding is fruitless. It's not going to happen. Except in very rare cases. Sometimes it does happen, and that's like an explosion of joy and fun.
They do that explosion of joy with that person. Is it a relationship that usually continues because they know it too?
Sometimes.
But not always. Huh?
No, not always. I can't tell you the number of times that I have met someone that I know should be a Murid and they have no clue. And they're, I just know it and forget it. It's not going to happen. At least not. And on the other hand, sometimes someone appears, this one for instance, and you just know and they respond. That's rarer. That's more unusual.
Can I ask another question?
Of course.
There's also something that happens with me that there's this one moment that is very clear to me where I walked past a client and I just felt him go past me and I thought, you're a robber. And he walked out and robbed the house next door. Not in that moment, a few months later.
Oh, wow.
But I've never so my question is there's also some self-skill that becomes required to listen to what's going on to you and to filter it.
Listening to your intuition.
But also filtering it. Like, I felt like saying out loud, you
Oh,
heard
yes,
how I
yeah.
said it. Yeah, you're a robber. I actually suppose I didn't say it out loud because there might have been a reaction, but I actually felt like I did.
Mm-hmm.
So there's also that filter like we
Yeah.
learned in the Raphaelite work. Yeah. But there's a lot more noise going on than there used to be.
Or maybe you're just more aware of it and the noise has become
right, because
more...
that's a very simple intuition,
Yeah.
That's sort of like a magic trick, I think.
Well, as you continue with all these breathing exercises, yes, all these things, and the noise will increase. Right?
Yeah,
it's like that's one of the purification breaths. What they do essentially is balance you, give you balance to go forward in your life, And but there are other breathing exercises that actually increase your psychic capacities. So you intuit more. So it does increase.
Yeah. And it's really handy.
Mm-hmm.
Like in our practice, our regular, the hypnosis practice, I often find myself saying stuff to clients. I have no idea why I'm saying it, but they know exactly what I'm talking about. It happens to me all the time.
Yeah. It's not a filter. It's a transmission
Yeah.
Becoming open to being.
Because ultimately what we're doing is we're initially healing ourselves of the various expressions of societal error that we've all been subject to in one way or another. Every single person in this room. I don't know you personally, but I bet if I knew your story, that there'd be some stuff there. We all have it, right? And we're healing ourselves. We're healing ourselves from our opinion of what happened to us.
And our opinion of ourselves.
And our opinion of ourselves, yeah.
Well, the protecting yourself from yourself. Can you talk about that a little more? What does that mean to you?
Oh, it means that what was referred to earlier is the story that you tell yourself.
Yeah.
Over and over.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Every day you reiterate this story. Right.
In one form or another.
Yeah. How it is you react in certain conditions will be predicated on how you reacted in some other instance to a similar condition. And you decided that's the way to do it, and so you continually respond in that manner.
Right.
When you discover that is inappropriate, what do you do?
Ideally, you would change.
Well, but that's not what happens, is it? That's not what happens. What happens really?
You mean,
it's a gradual process.
I mean, if you don't change, then you're just repeating it.
Yeah, but that's what you do.
Anger.
Repeat it, you mean?
You repeat it.
Until you change, though.
Well, what happens is that you notice it.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
And what'll inevitably, the process is this, and it's inevitable. It's how it always works, is you initially notice the inappropriate response. And inevitably, later, when it comes up again, which it will, you notice it after the fact. But you've gotten yourself in the habit of noticing. And you I did it again, damn,
Right.
And then it happens again. And what happens is you get closer and closer and closer to the event itself. And then you'll find yourself saying the words or responding while you're noticing what an idiot you are. Right?
And then you get the change.
Yeah. Well, no, not quite. Then that'll go on for a while. And then gradually you will begin to notice before you do it. Still you'll do it. Right? And eventually you get to a point where you recognize this is inappropriate. But it takes time. And that's where you're protecting yourself. And the protection is really about being gentle with yourself and not beating yourself up over something that you're training yourself to do because of all of these societal influences that gave you inappropriate response. Okay?
Yes, and your responses may be predicated upon your belief system. So if you can examine your beliefs, what they are, you'll find that they have they have clusters of beliefs around certain ones, So as you examine them, you can begin to work on them, work out, shifting them bit by bit. But it is also, again, a gradual process, and we're often governed by those beliefs that we hold, that parents taught us, or it's, for instance, if you think money is bad, even if you're really smart and really talented, nothing you're going to do is going to create any money, because money is, you have a belief that you don't even remember that money is evil, or
So doesn't grow on trees.
It doesn't. Right. So I mean, there are all kinds of them that as Masaru was saying, as you become aware of all those systems of beliefs that you have, and that you can gradually shift by being aware of, this can't be true. There's no truth in this. It's like, but even they may come up in different ways, and you'll find another belief that is attached to that one, you know, and so on, and you kind of clearing the woods in a sense.
Here's, I have a belief.
Only one?
Okay.
Well, in this certain thing, a belief that I have acquired over not very a long time, but is that prayer speeds up this process.
I was just going to mention that.
How lovely.
Yeah.
How lovely.
Also, doing these practices
Mm-hmm.
speeds up this
Yes.
process.
Yes.
And there's a side effect as well that you need to be aware of, and that is your personality is perfectly content with who it thinks it is. It has no problem with whatever flaws you may have. It's happy with those because it knows all about them.
Yeah, you're familiar.
This is something. Yeah.
I'm okay, you're okay.
Yeah, whatever your problem is. Or however it is you see yourself. So what happens then is as you do these practices, which have an effect, there's no doubt about it, if you are diligent in doing the practices, there will be an effect. And then your personality goes, wait a minute, what are you doing to me? Well, I didn't sign up for this, you know. And if you haven't experienced that yet, you haven't been doing the work. If you have experienced it, then you know what I'm talking about. But I'm just saying this so that it feels a little more comfortable to recognize that your being is insisting on maintaining an illusion that is not supportable. Nevertheless, it's quite happy with the illusion. Okay?
Really?
Yep.
Happy?
Yep.
Well,
Satisfied.
it's like because it's comfortable.
Because it knows it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because people can't stop smoking, for instance, because, well, besides it being addicted and a habit, it's something they identify with. They identify themselves as being a smoker, and actually they're quite happy with that because they can have a cigarette with a cup of coffee or a drink or whatever. Oh yeah, okay, I can chat with my friend and have a smoke. It's like so they're happy with that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like because
Even though there's unhappiness involved.
because it's comfortable.
Yeah.
It's
Your basic comfort zone. The most severe example of that is a woman who's in an abusive relationship and stays there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Or a man too, for that matter. It can happen to men.
And children too.
Oh God, that's the worst.
They do it too. They stay in abusive.
Well,
Because
they
they
don't
tell a story that works.
Yeah.
well, because they may not have any place else to go,
Or they don't know anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
So
Yeah, and then that becomes the norm, right? That just follows you through your life. So we all have those norms that we are addressing, and your personality, your inner being, is perfectly content with that norm, whatever it may be. And as you do these practices, that's going to be challenged. Okay, and then here's a classic example. Someone comes and they say, I want to be a Sufi. Initiate me. And you're like, oh, okay. Okay, now here's the practices that I'm going to assign to you. Actually, I don't do that. I just tell them to pay attention until they start begging me for practices. But a lot of people, what they'll do is say, here's your list. And you start out with the list. And you've got some breathing practices, you've got a mantra to recite, you've got maybe a meditation of some kind. All in all, it'll take like half an hour. So for the first week, they're all enthusiastic. This is exciting. And then it'll, kind of settle into a routine. And for another week or so, this is classic. It happens every time. Another week or so, okay, well, I guess I got to do this. I've obligated myself. And then the following week, might take a little longer, maybe a month or two. They'll skip a day. And then skip a couple of days. And then skip a week. And then stop doing them altogether. And the reason is because they've just challenged their psyche. Okay, I went through it myself. In fact, I go through it periodically. So it's not like this is just isolated to beginners by any means. So just notice that aspect, because that's what you're doing is you're protecting yourself, right? So if you really protect yourself, you continue to push through. That was one of Pir Vilay's basic statements. Whenever you'd ask him some question like, what do I do now? He'd say, push on through. Oh, thank you so much. That was helpful. Right? That's what he said. He said it to me a couple of times. So, imagine yourself in a state of recognizing your own process. Okay? Not as I describe it, because I'm describing generalities. Whatever your process is individually, and I can't know that. It's not possible. But you do. Right? You'll notice your own process very specifically. And when you begin to notice your process as a reality with just, not from some kind of cold point of view, but as if you are embracing yourself. You're wrapping yourself in the love of your true being. 10 minutes. Okay, so one exercise that I often give to hypnosis clients, and I'll give it to Muri's occasionally, is to, in fact, you can just, close your eyes and imagine this. Imagine that you are standing quite innocently in some favorite place, and in front of you is a full-length mirror. And in this mirror, you're seeing yourself. But not the self that you currently are, the self that you are becoming. And just see what that feels like. And then imagine this aspect of your true self looking back at you with gratitude for the work that you are currently doing, that they may exist in their most exquisite state. They will exist. They are becoming. They do, the who you are actually exists now. But you get to enhance that experience by your own efforts. See how that works? Okay, let's do noon prayers.
I have a couple
Yeah.
sheets, Jim.
Yeah.
Maybe we should have one too.
Maybe. Okay. Most gracious Lord, Master, Messiah, and Savior of humanity, we greet Thee with all humility. Thou art the first cause and the last effect, the divine life and the spirit of guidance, Alpha and Omega. Thy light is in all forms, Thy love in all beings, in a loving mother, in a kind father, in an innocent child, in a helpful friend, in an inspiring teacher. Allow us to recognize Thee in all Thy holy names and forms, as Rama, as Krishna, as Shiva, as Buddha. Let us know Thee as Abraham, as Solomon, as Zarathustra, as Moses, as Jesus, as Muhammad, and in many other names and forms, known and unknown to the world. We adore Thy past. Thy presence deeply enlightens our being, and we look for Thy blessings in the future. O Messenger, Christ, Nabi, the Rasul of God, Thou whose heart constantly reaches upward, Thou comest on earth with a message,
as a dove from above when dharma decays, and speakest the word that is put into thy mouth, as the light filleth the crescent moon. May the star of the divine light shining in thy heart be reflected in the hearts of thy devotees. May the message of God reach far and wide, illuminating and making the whole of humanity as one single family in the parenthood of God. Pour upon us thy love and thy light. 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 Pour upon us thy love and thy light.
A torch in the darkness, a staff during my weakness,
A rock in the weariness of life.
Thou, my Master, makest earth a paradise. Thy thought giveth me unearthly joy. Thy light illuminateth my life's path. Thy words inspire me with divine wisdom. I follow in thy footsteps, which lead me to the eternal goal. Comforter of the broken-hearted, support of those in need, friend of the lovers of truth, blessed Master, thou art the prophet of God. Okay. We have lunch.
Good. The meditation.
Did you have something in mind?
No,
Meditation
just
wise?
what we planned.
What did we plan?
Lesson
okay.
4.
Oh,
Good days.
see what happens? I take a nap and my brain stops. Okay, how are we doing so far with all of this? This is a lot of information, I realize. And we're going to give you more. The thing about this kind of esoteric information is that you accept it at the level that you can experience it, right? And that's fine. You know, if you know, I used to, in the beginning, I'd sit with in Pure Light and listen to him go into these very elaborate explanations and get about one word in 10, and I finally realized that it was okay. You know, so who was it? Expressed, I think it was you said about your feeling, your experience was the experience of the group, something like that. So that's a factor, right? So even if you're intellectually challenged with this material, and so it's very intellectually challenging, you're still receiving information in a deeper level.
Or even experientially challenged. Like
yeah.
if you don't experience the opening of the, if you don't experience the energy, etc.
Right.
It's like, you know.
Yeah, sometimes he'll give, a lot of people do, not just him. I do too. Give visual clues, and that may just be like, I have no idea what you're talking about, right? And that's okay. The visualizations are difficult for some people. So allow, in other words, allow yourself the, I want to say the time to let this information develop. And you can always just, if anything, that we talk about doesn't make sense to you, you can ignore it too. That's okay as well. At your peril. Okay. Okay, this next lesson in the course is called The Cosmic Dimension of Consciousness. So, as mentioned in Lesson 1, meditation can be looked upon as the art of modulating consciousness from its usual focalized and middle range setting. Not unlike the magnetic field, consciousness could be looked upon as a vortex, a formation within the total field of consciousness of the universe. Okay, what's that mean to you?
We read it again?
Sure.
Thank you.
As mentioned in Lesson 1, you weren't expecting me to ask, were you?
Let that one go.
There will be a Meditation can be looked upon as the art of modulating consciousness from its usual focalized and middle range setting. Not unlike the magnetic field, consciousness can be looked upon as a vortex, a formation within the total field of consciousness of the universe.
Wow. You can ask the question again?
Yeah, what do you think? What does that mean to you? Go ahead, take a stab at it.
To me, it sounds like the same, different translation of the same principle of the apex of the universe, of being that apex, like that condensed form of the universe.
In you.
In me, in us, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Individual and collective, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Like fine-tuning the radio.
Okay. Oh, understand when I ask these questions, if you're not familiar with my style, there's no right answer. The answer that you come up with is your answer. And what I find is that as people answer the question, the whole group is providing a composite answer, right? That's how it works.
I was thinking more in terms of, I generally think of consciousness as a beam of light going in a particular direction, or, even toward a goal or an idea, or focalized in some way, and the focalization becomes small or narrow. But he's saying here that the consciousness then it expands exponentially, it just like that vortex that we were meditating on before, so that it becomes huge fast. And allowing that to happen is a challenge sometimes. But we can, as he says, modulate it, like what's the term he used to use?
Modulation.
Modulation, but tripping back and forth.
Yeah.
Oh, toggling.
Toggling, so like that. Okay.
Okay. Any other opinions, attitudes, ideas, thoughts? No? Okay. Are you afraid to say anything? Or you don't have anything to say?
I was thinking that there's more hope of greater consciousness in meditation than there is in conversation, which might sound kind of obvious, I guess, but like in a conversation, even if the person's saying something that might help me go larger, often I'm too focused, like I'm not paying enough attention, whereas in meditation I hope I'm more able to like moderate myself and like take the opportunity to expand.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You happy with that?
Yeah, I was thinking similarly. It helps me to close my eyes when people talk so that I listen better and listen at a different level. I've noticed that recently. It helps me to try to not be worried or whatever vibrations happen on this physical manifestation that make you concerned with the physical and the self. Yeah.
Okay, we're done? Yeah? Okay, just as the lens of a camera reduces much of the detail of a landscape in order to reproduce it in a small celluloid slide or piece of cardboard, or in modern days in a data file. Likewise, yeah, because only a certain amount of the data is there, not all of it, right? Likewise, by the fact that the consciousness of the universe is focalized in the human setting, the ordinary grasp of our consciousness is extremely poor and inadequate. In photography, by changing to a panoramic lens, one can encompass a wider landscape, but by losing still more detail. Our consciousness functions rather on the same principle. So what's that tell you?
It's just like what these ladies were saying, about meditation allows for more expansion, which is the, whatever that's called, the big picture. What is it called in photography?
Panoramic.
The panoramic.
Okay.
Whereas otherwise, I'm focused on what you're saying, and
So when you're in a state of meditation, what happens?
You perceive a lot of levels at once instead of one.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Your view becomes panoramic, but not detail oriented. Right. So that's okay.
Also reminds me of how cool Pierre Wyatt was. He understood so many things.
how cool he was.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
I remember a talk where he used F4. He used all, he wouldn't he have been thrilled with digital cameras?
Oh God, yes.
And this whole talk he talked about what happens when we push F4 and delete.
Doesn't happen anymore. Okay, no, the F4 doesn't work anymore, I don't think.
No, I've tried it. I've thought of him and thought, I wonder what happens nowadays.
Adopting a further example, the span of our vision may be extended to watch a panorama, or alternatively, we may zoom our eyesight upon a particular letter in a word we are reading. Okay? When I read this paragraph, I was also reminded of Ibn Arabi's statement that you can look at the letter or the word, or you can look at the ink. But you can't do both. You either look at the word or you look at the ink. Right?
That's an interesting way to put it.
Yeah, so looking at the ink would be even more specific, more focused down. Usually our consciousness is conditioned by our commonplace concerns. But when it comes to grasping the implications of a situation or the meaningfulness of our lives on a wider context, our minds fail to make sense of these. Sometimes, unwittingly, our consciousness tends to adjust itself to a wider range. At this stage in meditation, one learns to stretch one's consciousness. As a consequence, one gets used to grasping things in a wider context. By applying the same principle to one's personality, one may free oneself from the constraint of one's usually rather inadequate and limiting self-image. Okay, now, the big question there is, do you want to do that? She nods her head yes.
Do you dare to do that?
Do you dare to do that? There's another one. Right. You see that poster in our kitchen? Did anyone notice it? Dare you have the courage to be who you really are? Right? Dare you have the courage to be, which is what he's saying. Do you dare to do it? Okay. Now, why do you suppose he's saying that?
It's a challenge.
Well,
It's a
why else?
challenge.
It is a challenge, but why else? Because you're.
He's saying that you are something more than who you think you are.
you're usually rather inadequate and limiting self-image.
Yeah.
How happy is it for you to think that way? That you have an inadequate self-image?
Not pleasant.
Right, that's the point, isn't it? Yeah.
But very safe.
Yeah, it's safer.
To have an inadequate self-image?
Well, to have the one you have.
To have one to not challenge it, because there are many people who don't even take the moment to challenge what it is they have, they accept.
Yeah. Okay. So are you willing to challenge it is the question. Just, you don't have to say out loud, but ask yourself the question. How willing are you to challenge your inadequate self-image? Do you even want to think of it as inadequate?
Why do you use that word, inadequate? I mean, that's such a funny way to, I understand what he's saying, but.
Because you're more.
You're right, but.
Yeah.
Well, you have all these concepts of who you think
It's
you are, and
maybe it's as opposed to inadequate, incomplete.
well,
I think that the idea is to really, knowing Pirabalaya, to really challenge your opinion. Basically a slap in the face, which he was quite capable of doing.
yeah.
Yeah. He hit me a couple times.
So
Slapped
if
me
you
in the
have
head.
all these concepts of who you think you are, both wonderful and not so wonderful, they're like cages, in the sense, structures that get in your way of who this being, this wonderful being, really is. So that if you're able to clear out, these concepts of these ideas and have a broader view, then the potential of who you really are can come shining through. So it's like that we are more than
I think also if you think of yourself as inadequate, well, no one wants to think that, do they?
some do. Some do.
Yeah, I guess some people do want to feel that way, but most of us don't. We want to think of ourselves as capable and, well, I guess unique, right? Because our culture states that one of the things that we are supposed to be culturally is unique, right? The self-made man, the pioneer, the person that goes into the wilderness and, clears a space and builds a cabin and is off the grid and takes care of himself. This whole myth of Americana becomes really, that's the cage, isn't it? Because none of us are that way. I mean, I'm not going into the woods. I tried it once and I was very, really bad at it. Doing the whole hippie back to the land thing.
And we are complete, actually. We just don't know it.
Right, but so our just as we are not actually inadequate, just our view of ourselves is inadequate, our view of ourselves is incomplete, not that we are actually.
Yeah.
That's right. That's it exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he says.
Well
Your view is the constraining of one's usually rather inadequate and limiting self-image. Okay.
So if you look at the word limiting, it gives you a better perspective of what he's saying.
The limitation of being. There's a Sufi phrase. I wish I knew the Arabic word. I got to ask Zumrud someday. There's a Sufi word called non-delimitation. It's a principle. You've probably read it in Ibn Arabi. If anyone's read Ibn Arabi, he uses it, and it means a recognition that consciousness is infinite, even though we create a finite expression of an infinite reality, just by out of necessity, really. Right? But when you're in that state of non-delimitation, the infinite universe seems normal.
I'm having trouble understanding the word.
Limitation
and delimitation, and not, it's a double negative, so
Yeah.
I'm not getting it.
Non-delimitation.
There's that Rumi poem about the touch of spirit on the body.
You know it?
I I just barely was able to bring back that line. But like that idea that God knows where we would end up if we were able to really be unlimited, and that is something of a risk to our psyches.
Yeah, you couldn't drive a car, for instance.
Right.
No, they would be out.
Actually, my children don't think I can now.
Okay, well, that's a personal problem.
But I always think of Saint Teresa of Avila and how totally upsetting it was to her that a nun had to sit on each side of her and hold her down because she naturally would levitate while praying.
Yeah.
And how she wrote about how horrid that was, how embarrassing and
Yeah. Yes.
yeah, like that's non-delimitation.
Okay, thank you.
But and yet it was terribly hard on her.
Yes.
That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah. And then others like Teresa de Lisieux just went ahead and did it.
Yeah.
And everybody kind of watched her. So, we've got one that flies.
She was a lot later. Teresa of Avila risked being killed in the
In the Inquisition. Right. Okay. Practice. This is a meditation that I will read through.
Are we supposed to do it as you read? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, just so. So the first thing that you do when you're about to do a meditation is you exhale completely. Get all the air out of your lungs, and then inhale naturally. And you'll notice that instantly relaxes your body right away. There's an instantaneous effect. And then just pay attention to your breathing. Just notice the rhythm of your breath. In this case, just balance it so the inhale and exhale are the same. And then let your mind wander through your body and make sure all your muscles are nice and relaxed, nothing tense or tight. So that's just general preparation anytime you do any kind of meditation. Now imagine your consciousness as an all-encompassing effulgence rather than a beam of light. Immediately, consciousness is modulated beyond its middle range into the expanded mode. Think of the stars, the galaxies, the enormous expanse of space. You might also experience what the vastness of understanding would be like in comparison with a bigoted point of view, or again what a cosmic attunement of emotion would be like in comparison with wallowing in personal fretting or ego satisfaction. So just imagine this amazing expansion of consciousness that you're capable of. Allow yourself, your being, to be dispersed into space, into the vast space between the stars. Now you may notice that when the setting of consciousness is narrow and sharp, the universe seems outside of yourself and other than yourself. No sooner does one extend consciousness than one acquires a warm, oceanic feeling as though one were dispersed in space, while entertaining a sense of vastness and immensity. You may find yourself so inextricably enmeshed with the universe that you identify yourself with it. Now, as you exhale, stretch out your consciousness, or let it be defocalized, decentered. Since we are accustomed to looking at things from our personal center, it seems as though we are now expanding our own consciousness. But if one were to see things from the converse point of view, one would realize that it looks as though the vortex is being resorbed in its ground. So your personal point of view is being reabsorbed by the universe, from the universe's point of view. Now imagine that you are looking at yourself from the vantage point of the stars or the galaxies, and through the immensity of space-time. St. Francis pointed out that the universe is looking at us. That which is seen is that which sees. This is best done as you inhale. So when you exhale, expand your consciousness, and as you inhale, imagine the universe looking back at you. Now, envision that the universe is looking at itself through your eyes, and maybe looking at you through your eyes. Okay, I'm out. How'd that feel?
I think of myself as wrong.
Wrong. Inadequate.
No, wrong.
Wrong? How wrong?
Like when you said that part about the universe is looking at you, I realized that I always think that the universe is feeling pity when I am looked upon, and that can't be so.
No, it can't be so. No, no. Interesting, huh?
Yeah.
Interesting realization.
Yeah. The part that first triggered it was that I am giving to, I forget what you said, the part about like I am part of the universe, and I assumed that that part of me that is going out to the universe is being purified and corrected. Oh, geez.
Rather than just acknowledging,
Right.
which is really what the meditation is
Or
about.
contributing.
Yeah, contributing. Yeah.
Jeez.
We're messed up then.
Right. That's what I was thinking.
Well, that's a revelation, isn't it? Yeah. Cool.
Did anyone else shatter their reality?
I didn't want to come back.
Yeah, I could feel that. Everybody wanted to kind of stay out there for a while. Mm-hmm. No, back to work. So what else did you experience? Personal, isn't it? Yeah. It is.
I'll share a little story, and it's kind of what I experienced. I have a spider on my back deck that's grown to like this size, and every day her web gets destroyed, whether it's wind or rain or whatever. I watched her last night. I'm like, wow, you work so hard every day to catch that food to survive. I realized everything's like that, including us, and that's just the biology of it. So I plugged in the lights to help her. So that's kind of what I experienced myself as the spider in the universe, as the observer.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
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 How can we help?
Turn on the light?
Yeah. And get the spider off my neck. Thank you. It's nice just asking that.
Yeah,
It's beautiful.
me too.
This is help.
Okay. Anyone else have anything to share?
I was hovering out there in an expanded place and dancing with sleep a little bit, you know, and kind of not falling asleep, but that place before you fall asleep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sure. State of reverie.
Yeah. So it's good not to stay there because I would have gone to
I
sleep.
know. I just started on
Okay. How long do you think it took?
How long did
How
we
long?
do that meditation?
5 minutes.
Yeah, I was going to say 4
millennia.
minutes. Four.
What do you think?
4 minutes.
4 minutes? Okay. Anybody else?
I thought it was a long time. No, I mean, I didn't feel like I suffered, but.
It was like 15 minutes. It was like 15 minutes.
Oh, it was?
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Yeah.
That's normal time distortion. You know, I'll guarantee anybody that I ever get to sit in the chair in the hypnosis, and they'll think that the session's like 10 minutes, and it'll be 45. That's
Yeah.
normal.
Me
We do
too.
that. Our brains, because you can process a lot of information, but it's
Well, when
somehow,
you're in that state, there is no time.
there's that too.
You know, that doesn't exist in a sense, you know, till you come back into your diurnal consciousness, you know.
Okay, here's what he has to say about that. The above exercises will help you to overcome the limiting factor in one's commonplace experience owing to the focalization of consciousness, and supplement one's experience of the universe with vantage points that are complementary to the usual. So this is something that you can do on a daily basis very quickly. Sit and, while you're doing your normal daily meditation, spend a couple of minutes just thinking of the universe looking at you. You know, it's a really very, easy place to slip into. Right? Because you're all, experienced at meditation, so you can just go into that type of concentration. And that, and what it does is if you do it daily, eventually your whole point of view will shift about who you are and what you do. I mean, assuming you have the courage to do so. Right?
That's like Mershid's thing about become able to notice the impact of your breath upon a room.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You guys ever done this? Everybody who's mine here, I give this practice. I give it generally. I even give it to hypnosis clients, although I don't tell them what it is. Of breathing in white light, exhaling golden light. You guys know how to do that? That's pretty much everyone knows how to do that. You ever done that in a crowded room where everybody's angry? I bet you have.
Oh, I used to run a 60-bed program.
Yeah, I know. I know you have.
But there's a distortion to that too, because you walk, because I would walk in and be the emperor, so
Right,
but it would be hard to diffuse that because I'd be taking so much, so
Yeah.
protecting and breathing.
Yeah. Well, so you were they had to be nice around you, or God knows what you'd do to them.
No, they knew.
Put them in the dungeon.
They knew what I would do to them.
Hang by your thumbs to a rack with you.
For the warrants.
I used to do it when I first learned this practice. I'd do it I do it in the subway in New York.
Nice.
You know,
Sounds
nobody
fun.
knew me or anything, and you
Yeah.
could feel the agitation and the general sense of unease or unpleasantness or I'm too crowded or I hate this train. Or,
Yeah.
you know,
I hate work.
whatever I had to do, and you just sit there and do the breath and just watch the whole train calm down.
I used to do it in the office.
Yeah,
Yeah.
calm everybody
So it's
down.
calmer on me.
Yeah, little
Alcove there.
little island of calm in the sea of chaos. But you can do that. You can become the island of calm in the sea of chaos.
And children do that all the time. They don't even
know they're doing it.
know.
Mm.
You know, a couple, I don't know when. Anyway, we went to I have triplet granddaughters, and we all went to New York City, and by mistake we got out at Ground Zero, out of the subway.
Oh.
And one of my granddaughters, who's very simple, Maya, she's a little different and odd. I think she was 9 because she's 10 now. It felt like so we're looking at this, and they were born in 2011. And she says, in this very loud voice, I'm sure everybody around us heard because she doesn't have a way, she's kind of different. Anyway, why were those guys so mad? I felt like I had been brainwashed, and she burst the bubble. People looking at her.
Good question.
Yeah, like only somebody who hadn't been brainwashed like we were felt like could have asked that question.
How do you mean brainwashed?
In that way of like, it was so horrible that I don't know that, I mean, Pir Vilayat talked about it. I went to see Pir Vilayat after it happened, and like I couldn't hear it until I heard her say it. And I'm sure I probably had said it. But just the way that she said it with that child way of the golden light, I just felt amazing, like something really shifted in that innocent question.
So why were they so mad?
I don't know. I stayed with her on the question.
Okay.
She kept asking it for hours and days, and if we talk about that trip, she'll ask it again. She is like really wants to know why were they so mad.
And she's not old enough to get the history to understand why.
Right. But somehow, like, I think it's an important question to her because actually she has troubles with emotion regulation.
Ah, okay.
So like she made it so real because probably right after that she stuck her feet in the ground and wouldn't move because that's what she does.
Okay. Oh. Well, look at that. All right. Sometimes one talks to a person all about one's problems and how difficult things are. Anybody here do that?
Oh no.
That is not generosity. The generous one is interested in the person one is talking to. How are you? Can I help you? What can I do for you? Like you just did. That was generosity. You cannot be illuminated if there is dissatisfaction. Okay?
Oops.
Right. Good thing it's a one day at a time life.
Okay, there's an interesting point that's right there that Nur Kalbia just made. Does anybody know what it is?
Living in the moment.
That a girl.
Yeah.
Are you proud of yourself? Yeah, that's it exactly. You know, you may be in a state of dissatisfaction, which just occurs.
The nature.
Yeah, and then for a period, you do some work, and for a period of time, you forget it. That you're dissatisfied, or that you're resentful, or that you're disappointed. And you go into a deep state, and you can be in a state. And then once having done that, your memory of that state will enable you to ease the pressure of the dissatisfaction. Okay, which is how this work becomes practical. Okay? Even though it's hard work and it takes courage, discipline, and patience. Nevertheless, it does have a positive effect upon your being. So your memory of dissatisfaction becomes less important.
And isn't it so, like what you said, that what I did was generosity, but actually what I felt like I was doing was making a connection that I wanted. So it wasn't actually made out of some altruistic.
Doesn't have to be.
So it's not
generosity doesn't necessarily recognize itself any more than true compassion doesn't recognize itself.
Yeah.
You're so hard on yourself.
Yeah.
Well, it's
She is, isn't she?
I know, but it's true, like that.
Generosity doesn't necessarily recognize itself.
And perhaps it's motivated by a desire to.
I mean, when you see,
Connection.
like when you see, if you're in New York City and you see a homeless person, I mean, the first thing I do is I look at their shoes.
Why?
Because if they got brand new shoes on, I don't give them any money.
Oh.
Where'd they get the shoes, right? But if their shoes are Ragged Mickey, I'll give them money. And I don't think about being generous at that moment. I'm just, doing what I feel comfortable doing, right? Then later on, I pat myself on the back. Yeah. Okay, where am I here? Okay, cannot be illuminated if there is dissatisfaction. The other thing that he says about that is just that if there is resentment. That's the big killer that he mentioned a lot. Resentments.
Because he struggled with them himself.
Yes, I know. Yeah, there was some that he never got rid of. Maybe that's the beauty of a master, is that they're fully willing to recognize, to describe their own flaws. One can give to another through the vehicle of conversation. There is no use in working with imagining light unless these very deep psychological attitudes have been dealt with. The key is indifference to oneself and interest in others.
Would you say again?
The key is... See what happens? The key is indifference for oneself and interest in others. What is it that Mercer says? Independence and indifference are the wings that enable the soul to fly, to soar. Right? Independence and indifference are the wings that enable the soul to soar. Okay, so it's not indifference to others. It's indifference to your own inadequacy, I suppose. Which may be the same as you become more conversant with the breadth of your being, those things which you just thought of as important become less and less so. That's the same thing, right? Okay, humor may also be used as a form of meditation, which evokes a flash of illumination. As soon as you laugh, you radiate a lot of light, providing it is not sardonic laughter. Prince Harash is always represented as laughing. Do you know who that is? Does everybody know? That's the sun. In Sufi terms, the sun is a male.
You didn't have to bring that up, did you?
I tell you, the Earth is female.
Harash.
The Earth is female.
Okay.
The planets are feminine, and the sun is masculine. But it's just a matter of creativity.
Just like in
receptivity.
this room, there's a lot more of us than there is.
I know there is. I'm hip. You know what? It actually makes it easier for me. You believe that? because I don't have to deal with any testosteronic energy.
Neither do we.
That's right, exactly.
That's always what I thought about why I work so well with, why I could alone manage 60 men. Because nobody's going to try to get me to get into a fight with them.
No, they have all those other guys to tussle with.
Well, they would get in trouble with me if they did.
Oh.
That's the problem.
Every time anybody ever challenged another man, I would kick them both out.
Oh. Goodness.
So I had one fight.
Wow.
Wow. So is it like mother respect or something?
Yeah, I think so. But
Would you go back and do it again?
no, because it was too hard. I can't imagine where I got the energy to do it. But I do.
I always wondered that myself, when you were in
I
that world.
actually do still work there.
Do you?
I do.
You just don't do the
I'm not
mother
queen
hen thing.
anymore. But I only work when she's not there because she won't be there at the same time as me. They all say, "Oh, I like you so much. I wish that she would go." And I say, "Oh no, you wouldn't like me if I was in her chair. You would not like me if I was in her chair."
Okay, Prince Herax is always represented as laughing. When you think about images of the sun, it's always got a smile on its face, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Never a frown.
Whereas the moon can have different faces, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
funny?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Human beings have a tendency, ultimately, to represent their universe exactly as it is, even though they may not know they're doing so. That's certainly true. Okay, as laughter comes from the confidence that ultimately, from the divine point of view, everything is for the best, even though from the human point of view, things appear as though the programming has broken down. Okay, which we've all experienced. It is confidence in the divine which enables one to become a solar being. When you experience that confidence, you participate in the soul of Prince Herax. How's that feel? Have you experienced that?
Can you read the last two sentences, please?
It is confidence in the divine which enables one to become a solar being. When you experience that confidence, you participate in the soul of Prince Herax.
Well, can we go outside and
Not today.
there's no sun out
No,
there?
it's all
It's
raining.
raining
again.
Started
It's raining again? Oh, okay, well, we'll just have to imagine it.
Yeah.
Allahu Akbar.
Yeah, that's one. That's a practice. There's an initiation called the solar initiation, which is, how do I describe it? I don't know if I can. It's an initiation in which you experience the solar system. You can feel the interplay of energies between all of the planets and the sun. And it's not something that it's not an initiation that's given by a human being. You just get it, and you know when you get it, but you don't want to presuppose it, because then you don't get it. Right? That's the trick. Okay, so imagine this state of being in which the radiance of the sun, which reaches out to all of the planets and beyond, because it just is infinite, right? And imagine that energy also centered within you. See how that feels. Or another way of saying that is become the sun. However it is you imagine the sun to be. And you all have plenty of information about how the sun is. According to the Zoroastrian Magi, our souls are fragments of the soul of the Archangel of the Sun. By smiling at the sun, we express our gratitude for the gift of light and life. We can smile all our resentment away, and especially our self-pity. If you cannot smile, it may mean you have self-pity and therefore are unable to give. If you take yourself too seriously, it is an affirmation of the ego. Now check yourself and realize that every time you smile mentally, your aura burns more brightly. Sit straight when you are facing the sun so the spine is erect, your head is not bent over. Hold the shoulders back so your heart may be fully exposed to the sun. There is a confrontation, an encounter between you and the sun. According to the Sufis, you are sitting at the court of the king, and tradition holds that one only turns one's back on the king when setting off on a mission. Now you can turn your back to the sun and know the king is always behind you, supporting you. Once I did a long retreat down at Annapolis, and every morning before sunrise, I can't believe I did this, I'd get up, it's funny when you're on retreat, you do stuff you'd never do ordinarily. I'd get up before sunrise and walk down to the beach and sit there on a bench and await the rising of the sun, because where I was directly across from the Naval Academy. And you could feel the ultraviolet rays coming over the horizon and bathing you in their energy, and then the sun would come up, and I'd watch it as long as I could, until it got too bright and do, light practices and whatnot. But it was, that series of days is something that had a very profound effect on how I feel about this whole experience.
Yeah, on retreat with Prabhupada, he would give this practice, and we would, very early in the morning, 5 or 6 in the morning, go out and just allow the sun to, the rising sun to enter our beings and feel it on the heart. We even did turn our back on it so we could feel it on the back of the head, the heart, the third eye. Just this whole amazing experience to allowing all this light in.
Okay.
I have one more thing to do before you put that away.
What do you want to do?
He talks about smiling at the sun. So let's do some smiling. Smile at first, close your eyes and smile at yourself. You can even laugh. Right. And now pick a person in the room, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, there's 8 people. Smile at that person.
It's going to be interesting.
Just like the sun, unabashedly loving and generous. It's just that, without judgment, without...
This is your actor training coming through.
No.
Yes, it is.
No. Just keep smiling, man, and see what look at what happens. Just look at what happens. Yeah. Now just leave your mouth alone and smile with your heart. And open your eyes as you smile with your heart. Okay. All right, now, okay, there's another practice of smiling. If there's a part of your body that you really don't like, smile at it. Just take a good look at it and smile at it. And smile at your organs. Your liver, kidneys, lungs, circulatory system, nervous system, your eyes, your taste buds, your hands, your touch, smile at your skin. This is called the focalized sun. All right. And now just smile back at the sun. Imagine smiling at the sun in gratitude for the sun. Amen.
Okay, let's take a break.